first of all, I want to thank everyone for coming. This is our third webinar of all time. So, still very much in testing, but like I said, I'm hoping we've gotten a lot of these quirks figured out. But this is a really simple session. I will also say this is our second session on this topic. And so everything that we're doing today, me and Jeff have both already done. This was our first webinar. But it's always interesting because it's a pretty interactive, as you'll see in a bit. And so I have a feeling that where we end up will probably be pretty different than where we ended up when we did this webinar the first time. But yeah, it's a nice, simple, short 30-minute webinar. So I'm hoping to have a good bit of fun with all of you.
Yeah, and thanks for coming. And with that, I think you all know Anthony, but let's do an introduction either way before we get started.
My name is Anthony Beckett. I'm the creator of Markify. I started it over 4 years ago, which is just nuts to me. But we'll get a bit into the story in a moment here. But yeah, I created it as a high school student because I was struggling in class. I've continued working on it, and even now as a college student, it's still the biggest project that I'm continuing to build out and make even better.
Yeah, and I'm Jeff. I'm a finance professor in Middle Tennessee State, where I've spent a lot of my time over the past 10 years trying to find ways to better engage students, to better have, a engaging classroom or opportunity for students to do more than just kind of sit around and listen to a lecture. And I found that, when I came across Markify, it was an awesome tool to help me accomplish that. Students were getting excited, students were getting engaged. It was allowing for group work and group interaction a lot easier. And I knew that this was something that I could see a big future for. And so with Anthony's blessing, I came aboard, and here we are today.
All right. Now, I feel like a lot of you already are pretty familiar with Markify, but if you're not, and also for the video that people will be watching later, there's a lot of different things you can do with it, right? And so at its core, it's just a whiteboard tool that's purpose-built for education. And just like you could use a whiteboard in a classroom to do any number of things, you can do those things and much more with a digital version. And so these are kind of the most common use cases. I know a lot of people use it for note taking. They write guided notes. They fill in stuff, which we're actually about to do in a minute. But there's a lot of other things that you can do with this as well that we're going to get into: discussion boards, brainstorming, graphic organizers. My favorite use case has to be Socratic seminars. And so seeing, I had several really good teachers that were really big through the Socratic method, and seeing how they've used Markify to, not just have students talk to each other and discuss, but actually come onto the document and mark it up, annotate it. And then those annotations, they're stuck, right? And so, students who are coming back to study, students who weren't there that day, they can come and see, the class annotated copy. So, the idea is, though, that there is a lot of different things you can do with a collaborative whiteboard, where it's not just students seeing the board, but actually hopping onto it and interacting. And so, using Markify is very simple. I suspect a lot of you have already used it before, but once again, if not, you just hit the new lesson button. You're going to see board on the dashboard. I don't know if Jeff can open that really quickly, maybe, but
yeah.
But there you go. So you can just hit board, and then from there you can just upload an existing resource, a worksheet, a slide deck, or you could just make a blank page or a free board to kind of hop right in and create your lesson inside Markify. So very simple.
Yeah, let me get back to the other one.
There you go. And so once you do that, the next part is to share it. And so that's what Jeff is going to do now to kind of let us all come on to the lesson here.
So, yeah, and so there you are. We have numerous ways to share. Pin, if you just want students to type in a number, it'll randomly generate a link, or email if you have email addresses. Everybody's here today, so I can do share with link. So we'll click that, enable, move that out of the way, copy that. And if you want to go back to chat, that link has now been posted. And if you look over here, the number of members is going up as people join. So right now it's just the two of us. Anthony just joined on his other account, Walter, D, and so on. So yeah, having students join is incredibly easy and straightforward. You can do it however you want. All methods are perfectly viable.
And I want to point out too that if you open the members again, everyone other than me, who you gave editor to before, is joining as a viewer. And so, all about us, as we'll see in a bit, it's all about keeping, the environment safe. If everyone joined as a student, there'd be rioting everywhere. It'd be craziness. But by default, when students join, they're just joining to improve the accessibility of it, right? To see it up close, to have that document in front of them. And then it's up to you at any point to grant that editing, which once again, we'll get into in a moment.
And I will say the nice thing is for students, if you want them to join your lesson or whatever, like they don't need to sign up for Markify, right? They can just take the pin and click the join button on the homepage and they'll be able to join. So they don't need to have an actual membership or, give out their private information or anything like that.
And then, yeah, I think now we're at the last step here. And so, once your students are in, it's markup and collaborate time. And so you give editor to the students, which, we'll show in a bit. But then you have all of these different tools, from drawing, obviously, to using the text box and sticky note. And the real idea here is to just have a bunch of options for any kind of device, right? If someone's on a tablet or a touch screen, they have the pen, they can mark up with the highlighter. But then if somebody's on a Chromebook and they've got a keyboard, they can use the text box, the formula tool for math. So it's really being inclusive and accessible to any kind of student or device that student's using, so that they can, feel like they can contribute to that lesson as easily as possible.
Yeah. And so with that, let's hop in and use Markify. So we've got most people in here. Let's start out with a quick survey. And this also serves to kind of show a new tool that's available in Markify. So if you are a user and haven't seen this yet, we do have now widgets, and there's a few already built in. We're going to keep adding new ones, at least one more. But let's start with a quick question, right? So this is the basic widget. You kind of can pick where your answer goes along this scale. But if we click up here, we can ask a question. So something like, are you comfortable using Markify? Right. And then, let's say my answer is here. I can click. Anthony can add his answer, and you'll see where he is.
So go to the scale and click on it. Students don't need to see somebody added their mark there. You do not need to
notice that they just show up without names. So it's nice to kind of see who is on there by hovering over. But if I don't want students to know that, I can leave it like this, and we just kind of get a general idea of where people are.
If you click on it, Jeff.
Yep.
The widget.
Yep.
You can
put
the little hat, and you can anonymize it.
And then if we scroll over, other than myself, right, and Anthony, because he's an editor, but you can see, there we go, his thing's gone. Yeah, you can see now students can give their input without feeling like, they have to, maybe they don't know the answer and they're not comfortable saying that, but now it's anonymous and they can be a little bit more honest. So great tool here that's new if you're not familiar with it. And it looks like we've got people here who already know how to use Markify a bit.
That's kind of what I figured. I think we've got a good experienced crowd.
Yeah, so we'll throw one more widget on there just to kind of keep us on time. A new widget we have is the timer. So we've got I'll put it to 15 minutes, just kind of have a few minutes to wrap up, but you can keep this here. It'll be available to you if you want groups to work on something, anything like that, right? So here we go. Kind of keep us on track. But with that, let's kind of talk a little bit about putting this whiteboard on everybody's desk and how we can actually use Markify to enhance our classroom. And so turn it back to Anthony here, since this is his story. The first thing we're going to do is kind of show how you can utilize, in his case, he's using a tablet and he's going to use a pen on that tablet. Like you mentioned, you can use text boxes, anything like that. But this is kind of just going to illustrate a way where one person can come up and answer a question, whether it be math or English or science or whatever it is at a time, and kind of have everybody share access to that. So Anthony, if you want to take away the story part here.
Take it away here. So like Jeff said, I'm on my iPad here. And so Markify being web-based, it can work on anything. Now, the first step in me getting excited and all, we've already kind of talked a little bit about it, but the first step with using a digital whiteboard like this is improving the accessibility. And so that's really what these notes kind of highlight. So I'm going to come in here and you'll see if all of you scroll to page 10 here, as I write on this, and so the story of Markify goes to my sophomore year. I hope I spelled that right. You'll see that that's actually showing up real time up close. And so that's kind of the first step here, is letting students have the notes, accessible to them. And so, going back to the story, I started at my sophomore year. I was sitting in math class with my teachers writing notes up at the front of the room. And we were doing a guided notes activity. And so guided note page. But the thing is that, both just by being a bit slower, but also being, maybe a little bit distracted in some sense, I regularly, missed a lot of those notes. He would be writing those notes up front, and then he would move on to the next part of the lesson, and they would be gone. And so I gazed on my Chromebook and I thought, why couldn't the notes that he's writing up there be streamed real time where I can see them up close? And then after several months of experimenting, I created the first version, which was called TeachCast. And once again, this was over 4 years ago now, which is crazy to me. But I kept working on it over the summer and over the next, over my junior year. And that was when I got really inspired by one of my English teachers who, like I said earlier, he was really big with Socratic seminars. And that's what gave me the idea to begin with, why can't this be two-directional, right? Why is it just about seeing the notes up close? Why can't it be, both ways, where the student's able to write up close from the comfort of their desk? And just for fun, he liked facilitating, and so he called it Out of the Rabbit Hole here. But that's really what the teacher becomes when you're doing true collaborative, when you're teaching collaboratively, right? It's about you as the teacher, the educator, taking on the facilitator role and giving it to, giving the control to the students in a sense, to let them, solve the problems and figure out the lesson. Well, you kind of, keep everyone out of the rabbit hole.
Awesome. And so I'll quickly mention this because you can't see Anthony's screen as he's doing it, but everyone here seemed to be familiar. But what he was doing is over here, he was grabbing the pen tool. You can come down here and change color, which he was doing. You can see he used a bunch of colors, thickness, opacity, things like that. But that's how he was doing it, just coming in here and grabbing the different color, and that's how he was able to change those, since you couldn't see it. Another thing I just want to mention really quickly is, remember we had that timer up above? Well, keep in mind now down here in the bottom left, we still have it. It's just will move with us. It just won't be the full timer that you see up here, but which is still available. But nice feature for those who want to use that timer widget.
I'm realizing how long I took on that.
The next thing really quickly I want to say is, Anthony asked you all to go to page 10, I believe that it was. Let's say you have some students who maybe aren't paying attention. You just want to make sure everybody actually is where you are. So rather than asking people, you can come up here right? I can click my name. I can click spotlight. So before I click this, I'd ask all of you to scroll somewhere else on the page so you're not matching my screen. If you're matching my screen, it won't really illustrate how it works as well. But I think that's enough time. So when I hit spotlight, what it's going to do is essentially spotlight what I'm showing on my screen to all students. All right. So now you are all here with me. If you don't touch your mouse and scroll around, when I move, it will move with you as well. Students do have the ability to go elsewhere again. They can kind of disengage with that spotlight if they want, but it's a quick way to get all students right to where you want them to be if you don't want to say, hey, find page 10 or anything like that. So with that, let's kind of jump into you guys using this. I'm going to go ahead, Walter, you want to give it a shot? There's 4 questions up here. Let me scroll out a little bit so everyone can see. I'm going to go ahead and give you editor. Now on the left-hand side of your screen, you should see all of these tools. If you want to grab one of the tools, your choice, maybe you want to highlight something, maybe you want to do some math with a pen or a text box, maybe you want to, grab an arrow to point to the right answer.
There we go. Perfect.
Perfect.
I'll do the math, Jeff.
All right, Anthony's got math. I'm going to go ahead and say trust everybody in here. D, you're an editor. Diane, you're an editor.
Pick a box.
I'm not sure how. I've been odd. I apologize. That's absolutely not correct. But yeah, everybody go ahead and grab one, even if you're doing someone else's question, or maybe you want to try the arrow tool, right? Whatever you want. And by arrow tool, I mean, maybe I'm going to say future tense, right? That's how I want to give my answer. Kind of weird way to do it, but maybe that's what I want. So yeah, you can see here we have the ability for numerous different ways to interact with this, right? English, we can do things like highlighting, adding shapes. Math, we can do things like writing. I see somebody, I can't imagine, I didn't look, but I can't imagine this isn't a text box. Yeah, it's too well written. Text box, right, with numbers, text box with text. We got D over here as well, highlighters. So numerous different ways for students to interact with the lecture or the lessons that you have planned. And it's just as easy as giving somebody editor privileges. And if I were to come up here and maybe I just want to say, Diane, I don't want you to have editor anymore. If I click that, notice, Diane, your tools go away. So whoever loses editor then has their tools removed. I'm going to undo that because, like I said, everyone in here, I don't mind having editor privileges. Exactly. Yeah, so any questions on that initial kind of interaction with the Markify boards? Perfect.
Show how you can show real quick how you can view who added something to the board.
You mean like with timeline?
No, just by clicking on it, showing.
Oh, you mean like who added this?
Yeah. So you can really easily see which student added what. So if they did something that wasn't, on task, for instance, you could come and view.
And I will say, I mentioned timeline. We'll show that at the end. That's another way to see who's done what, but more in a grand scale. I can see every change that's been made. So we'll show you that here in a little bit if you're not familiar with it. But that's another great tool to see who's doing what and contributing what and how they're interacting with your lessons. So with that, I kind of had people answering individual questions, kind of interacting with different parts of a lecture. Down here, what we're going to do is actually just color, right? So grab a pen tool or a highlighter tool and let's all color. And the idea here is not that coloring is necessarily, the best use of Markify, but it shows that everybody can interact on the exact same lecture at the same time, doing different things and kind of contribute to one whole within the class. So please go ahead and grab that and we'll spend a minute here painting. I'll even join in.
That said, it is a really good, just, real quick exercise to get students waking up in the morning.
Yeah, it totally depends what grade level you're teaching.
Yeah.
And the nice thing is that if you now click your selection tool, you don't do it all, you can keep painting, but if you go ahead, I'm able to click on other people's work, right? And I can see all this, and I can delete it, right? I can edit it, but you as other participants cannot edit other people's work without me giving you that ability. So one student can't go in and delete another student. If you were to try and do that, you're going to see that you're unable to, which is nice. Perfect. We'll spend one more minute on that before we talk about a few of the other tools available here in Markify and in the board. You guys can keep on painting. What I will do again is go here and bring you to my page. And so here what I want to do is go ahead and use the text box or a sticky note. So a few people have already used the text box, but if you haven't, go ahead and try. If not, grab the sticky note and be able to place it here and actually use this as a text box, but more of like a highlighted one. And let me know, what do students struggle with in your classes, particularly with group work or things like that? Logging into their accounts. Breaking down complex tasks. Yes. Well, I will tell you that doesn't ever go away. I teach college students and graduate students, and they still struggle with that. Working well with others, can't tell you how often I find that, students would prefer just to kind of do their own thing quietly. This is a great way to kind of get around that, trying to engage other students. Group work, so just one person doing everything exactly. Checking out the text box tool. Okay. Cool. I'm not familiar with that. We'll have to check it out. Thank you.
Tools. Yeah, I've seen that.
Awesome. Yeah, so we can do things like this where, we have the ability to just put out text if we don't want to handwrite things like this. I love that. I don't know who's done this. I'm going to guess it's probably Anthony without looking. But yeah, you can actually add comments, hearts, emojis, things like that to other people's work and kind of highlighting what you like, things like that.
I really
want
to point out too that Jeff here, as you guys have been doing it, he's moved some of the sticky notes around. He's kind of cleaned things up. That's what I was talking about earlier, taking on kind of the facilitator role, right? And so he's coming in, he's guiding the lesson here. And then also just by giving instructions and saying, look, this is what we're going to do. We're going to use the sticky note. That is the facilitator piece at work right there.
Yeah, and so, as Anthony mentioned, it's a great way to kind of allow a teacher to be a facilitator and oversee the students' engagement as opposed to having to just lecture to them. Unless you've got any questions, we'll continue on to, I believe, right here. We're going to do one last tool, and that is, what is something you can't teach up? But rather than typing it out, we're going to go over here and grab the media tool, and you can upload an image. So go to Google, find an image of something that you can't live without. It could be whatever it is, and we'll upload that. You can notice here, you can actually also embed videos, things like that, but it allows you to do more than just, put a PDF in here, put a math problem, put some text. You can do any number of things. You can have students bring in their own outside material, their own outside images, their own things like that as well. So we'll take a minute here.
You can also, if it's easier, just copy and paste an image in if you don't want to download the whole thing.
Yes.
D just duplicated it.
Awesome. So curious what is being uploaded.
And sometimes it takes a minute.
Yeah, it just depends how big the image is.
Oh.
Everyone can hear the kind of background dot, and now that. If you notice real quick, our timer is red. It's gone to 0.
That was the most perfect
thing I've
ever seen.
I clicked it and it brought me back up here if you actually want to see it. Yeah, so that's our timer, kind of keeps us on track, right? And we'll come back down here and finish up here. Oh, there we go. Awesome. Let me zoom in. Oh, awesome. Universal design for learning guidelines. We got D, actually making coffee. Oh, fabulous.
D raised his hand.
Yes, D. Please unmute yourself.
Quick question. With the timer, let's say you set it for 10 minutes, but then
Yep.
you later realize, oh, we're running out of time. I need to accelerate this. Can you change it to like 7 minutes?
Absolutely.
Yes. So
That's what the plus and minus there do.
right, so
I
there
see.
it is at 5. If I said, oh, we only have 2 minutes, or maybe everyone's done early, but I don't want to call them back, want to actually run out, we can do that.
And then you can obviously change it. If you change it though, that'll just reset the timer.
But you can, and maybe you don't want minute intervals, right? You want 17 seconds for whatever reason. Type it in, you're good to go.
But yeah.
Awesome. And then with that, that's kind of just a brief overview of how to use the Markify board and the introduction to the tools. I think we're going to wrap up here in the next couple minutes with just a little bit from Anthony, unless you'd like me to take it, about making sure that the teacher remains in control. Because ultimately, this is a tool for teachers. Yes, we want to encourage student engagement and encourage student participation, but we want to do so in a responsible way. And so there are a decent number of settings and tools available to that teacher to make sure that that can happen.
Yeah. So we've seen, some of that throughout, such as seeing like who added what or controlling the editor, but there's a lot of other things you can do. And so if Jeff wants to click on the little settings cog, you can, you can see there's a bunch of settings, so you can control things like modify other work, and allowing, exporting, allowing reactions, which is what we kind of looked at earlier. So if you don't want, students putting emojis over everything, you can turn that off. But then perhaps the biggest thing is the tool toggle. And so that's going to let you actually control, what tools the students have access to. So if you only want them to add sticky notes, you can hit all off and just have sticky notes. If you don't want them uploading things, you can turn that off. So there's a lot of flexibility here. And then of course my favorite feature, well, I feel like I say that all the time, but it's of course going to be the timeline. So that's a really good feature to see a just total history of every single change that was made. So it's going to play it back almost like a video.
But we can also,
scrum through
manually scroll ahead. Maybe I don't care about the first, I know something happened, on this page. So I can kind of, see where are we here? Right? One move at a time, who made it at the bottom, how long ago. We can see, here's Walter, here's Anthony, Walter, Anthony as I type D, and so on. So yeah, you can play it through continuously and it'll show you where you are. You can manually do it one step at a time. We can actually revert back to it as well. So the timeline's a really great feature.
It's really good if you have a student who, adds something a bit mischievous and then deletes it, thinks that, nobody noticed. You can go back and see what it was and who did it. And as Jeff pointed out, the reverting's a really big thing too, right? If things go awry, somebody draws all over the board and it gets crazy, you can just bring it right back to where your document was and revert that back.
Yeah. And so you all have access to this now in your Markify. If you would do us a favor and at some point in the future, near future ideally, go here and just fill out a little, I guess it's a survey about, Markify, what you like, what could be better, how the webinars are helpful or not. That helps us a lot. We use that to kind of improve as we go forward. And if you have any questions outside of this webinar, please feel free to get in touch with either one of us. We're both here to help. And with that, I can kind of open up to questions if there are any.